Hi, welcome back, everyone. I am Allison Olson. I am here with Laura Khoury. As most of you know, we are both adoptive moms, and I'm also an adoptee, and we are both children's adoption book authors. We've also been friends for over 25 years. So we had started these discussions. We have these discussions all the time. And then we just thought, oh, other people might want to be part of this. So that's why we have these short clips on YouTube. We would love for you to join in with us. This one's going to be a discussion today about common things that people say or ask when they find out you're an adoptive parent. And this is a discussion. So this is like a part one. So we'll have this discussion. And then if you guys could think of different things people have said to you that you would love for us to discuss or see if we've encountered them as well, just put them in the comments on YouTube, and then we'll have a follow-up and we can go from there. So
Yeah.
Laura, I know you've been thinking about this a little bit. What was the one that came top of mind to you?
Well, it just came up the other day, which is why it came to my mind. But yeah, so a lot of times people, especially I was at a party, and the party that I was at, somebody had bought the book. And so she was like, brought the book out, and it was like, she read the book. And so everybody kind of was reading it. And then later I was talking with somebody who was a little bit on the, it was like somebody's mom. And she asked the question, do you know who their birth family? I don't think she used the word birth family, but like who their family is. And I shared, yeah, my oldest daughter has an open adoption. And so we see her birth family, and it's a really positive experience. It's always felt like just, a extension of our family, and went into kind of the way that I describe it, which is in a really positive light.
Yeah.
And she's like, aren't you just so scared that they're gonna take her back? And I'm like,
that too.
yeah, I'm like, so Sophie's 11. We've always had an open adoption with them. The adoption
it's
is
legal
complete.
and final.
Yeah. And it's been complete since she was 9 months old, and I don't worry about it at all. We see them and they're wonderful people, but they are not going to take her back. It's not something that I worry about. And
can I ask if the general age range of this person? Were they older?
I mean, she was my friend's, like in her family, like my mom's age, probably.
Okay.
So yeah. And that generation usually has pretty much that question, I think, because she was saying, like, I always thought about adoption, but that was something that would have held me back, because I was afraid that I would bond with the child and then they would take the child away from me. Which is also a question that I get a lot with foster care. And in foster care, that has happened to me, where you bond with the child, and even a child that you're considering adopting, and you love them. But I had run into this mom once, and this is different from adoption, because obviously, like, it isn't legal, it isn't final, and that it's a possibility, and a lot of times the possibility that's best for the child. I mean,
you're hoping for the reunification.
Yeah. But the woman that I met, she said, I am an adult, and I make sure I have the tools that I need to be there for the child when they need me. And then to, get over it basically once the child leaves. It's not up to me. Like, I'm not gifted this child, I'm just here to parent while the child's with me. But that's kind of a separate situation from what we were talking about, this kind of like fear that these people kind of have out there. So it's interesting, because it's like, you do kind of want, like, I like to spread the message that it's not something that I worry about, but it's hard to constantly have to like reassure people that you're safe, and you know,
Oh,
and it's
that's
like,
very true.
yeah, yeah. But I don't really mind because I do like to talk about adoption in a positive light, but it isn't my job necessarily, like when I'm out and about, to like relieve their
Educate
fears. Yeah,
everyone. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I will say I've actually only received that one once, but same thing from someone older. And I think mine's a little different too, because being that I'm adopted, my brother's adopted,
Mhm.
my cousin's child's adopted, like we have a lot of adoption in our family. So
Mhm.
I sometimes in the family don't get in my side of the family, don't get as many of those kind of questions, but I do still get other comments, but yeah,
Yeah.
I did have an older individual say that, especially when I was speaking very positively about my daughter's birth mom and family, like, aren't you worried? I'm like, no, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what stopped people for so many years, is a fear that's unwarranted, you know.
Yeah. Of having an open relationship, you
Yeah.
mean? Yeah,
Hmm. Yeah.
I do too. And, in reality, I think, that's really a sad thing, because there's just so many good things that can come from having that relationship, as we both
Agreed.
know. But on everybody's side, it's really wonderful for me. I just had read this thing saying how you have, I think it was probably like in the primal wound, or maybe it was a discussion around that, but that you have the desire, the deep desire to like look at somebody who resembles you and to see yourself in them. But it's a special thing as an adoptive mom to see that too. For
Yeah.
me, it's like such a weird thing, but it's special for me to like see the features and then like identify with them
Oh,
in my
that
child.
means a lot to me, because as an adoptee, I always thought I'd always enjoy that when I see like you and your sister and your mom. Like,
Mhm.
when I see similarity, I always make a bigger deal out of it. And then I always explain, like, I'm adopted, so I don't, and even my biological daughter, is a spitting image of my husband. So,
Yeah.
so, it's like I don't really see anyone that looks like me. So yeah, that's good. That's really cool that you
Yeah, that is kind of that was an unexpected one for me, but it's interesting. And I bet like you guys will experience that, because when they're babies, like they don't, it's hard I cannot see
Oh,
features of babies.
she looks a lot like a lot of her birth family.
Does she?
And
Okay.
yes, and oh my gosh, it was so special to me. And again, I think it's just being an adoptee. I mean, there were a lot of times I've cried a lot with her birth family, because it's just so special to me to have that relationship. And her
Mhm.
birth grandma brought over baby pictures of her
Oh,
birth mom and her birth aunt and her birth uncle, so I got to look through all of those, and I got to take pictures of their pictures. So I have
mhm.
all of that for her.
Oh, that's
And yes, she looks like a lot of numbers. I want to try to keep her stuff, so I'm not like saying stuff, but in my eyes, I think I can see like the cheeks of so and so, and the eyes of so and so, and the
yeah.
nose of and so it's really, that part's really enjoyable. But I
Oh,
get, well, do you get when people find out that you're an adoptive parent, a lot of questions of an intrigue that maybe people have thought about it or looked into it and they want to know more about adoption? Do you get a lot of that too?
yeah. I mean, I get a lot more of like people who are like, I've always wanted to, but they, kind of like I'm thinking, are you ever going to? I don't know.
Yeah.
Because like their families, it doesn't seem like they're in the position that they're going to. But yeah, I mean, we do get a lot of questions. A lot of times, like people who are really close to like looking for an agency will get like
Yeah.
those are my favorite ones, because like they're really
Me
considering
too.
it, and I'll tell them like everything,
Yeah, me too.
because I mean that's like when you're really doing it, that it's just so overwhelming, because you just have a lot of decisions to make, and you just need to figure out, I mean, like which agency, and like,
Yeah.
all the paperwork and what to expect. And I remember being so nervous at our home study, like they were going to say no to us, which
Oh yeah.
was an interesting thought. Like now, it's like, is my house clean enough? Is my
Oh
closet clean enough?
yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
so,
And you're totally paranoid because you heard, like, oh, you need enough fire extinguishers and you have to like have like an exit map in your
yeah.
all these things where you're like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And we actually really loved our social worker that did that did our home studies.
Uh-huh.
And so it ended up actually being really enjoyable when you would come for visits.
Yeah. Because you
So
like talk about everything about you, your whole
yeah,
life story, like you start at birth. Yeah,
yeah.
it's even a little bit more detailed for foster care.
Oh, I'm
I
sure.
mean, I think it was
And as it
in
should be,
Michigan
yeah.
anyway. Yeah, I mean, they like measure the temperature of your water and
Okay.
I don't know, they did different things, like a little bit more in-depth things than they did for our home study, but every state's different, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And every agency is different for exactly what they're looking for and all that.
I think so, yeah, because the state just has to approve it, right? So yeah, it's all interesting. But I think maybe we can keep thinking, but people should put in the comments more situations that have happened to them and we could speak on to that too, because that'd be fun. It's always,
Definitely.
yeah.
I was gonna bring up one. It's a more negative one.
Okay.
And I shouldn't even say, well, it's definitely negative. It's a little strange. And it's always older individuals.
Okay.
And oftentimes it's like I'm the first person they're meeting from the adoption world. And when I was adopted, I didn't get it as much, but I've gotten it now a few more times being an adoptive parent. And I think it's weird. I think people's guard goes down. Like, whereas, when I say I'm an adoptee, they're a little bit more respectful.
Careful. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when they find out I'm an adoptive parent, it's like, oh, well, and here's the thing. So in fact, someone was even saying this while they were holding my baby.
Whoa.
And they did not realize, and I was like, okay, and just took her out of their arms. They were making a comment about, oh, we used to tease my middle brother
Oh.
because he looked so different that he was adopted, and he would cry, and it was, like basically like it was the worst thing to be called adopted.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, okay. And I'm like, grab my baby and I'm getting her the hell out of there.
Yeah.
Because, and this is like someone that will be around at different family functions and stuff, and they mean well. And this is someone who obviously cares about the baby, was holding the baby. But it's like, that's such a big taboo. And I know that we've talked about it, and I have thoughts around the way that children are portrayed in books, and we can talk about it later, but that continues to perpetuate that, oh, you look different.
Mhm.
You're an adopted child's thing. But that's one that I have actually heard multiple times.
Me too.
Yes. And
What
it
do
is
you
like,
say?
yeah, it's like the floodgates are open because I'm an adoptive parent. And the first thing I say to them is, well, I'm also adopted, which is also super awkward, right? It's obviously a light,
But they
time
just
when you're,
gave you a really big dagger. Like you're just kind of
yeah.
letting
And
them sit
it's
in it for a
because
minute.
also a lot of them forget that I'm adopted. So when you see a child and they just adopted a child, it's like, oh, they're an adoptive parent, but it's, oh yeah, and they feel like that's okay, to say, because it's like the only way they can relate, I think, to adoption. And just to be clear, this happens for everyone. I have LGBTQ friends that are like, kind of stuff happens all the time, like that they would say, so, oh, like we used to pick on somebody. It's like, oh, that's how you relate to this person, my
I
God.
know, I
So
know. It's like what pops into your mind.
what pops in your mind? So I think it's the I think society's moving in the right direction with being more cognizant of people's backgrounds and, different diverse situations, how different families are built, et cetera. So I think we're moving in the right direction, but yet to me, it's usually older individuals. And it's the balance of, how much do I care about this relationship? Like, can I burn this bridge? Can I not? How can I say this and hopefully educate so that they don't do this to somebody else?
Yeah.
And definitely don't say this in the future to my child.
To your child.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say obviously who, and I won't even go into detail, but there is a lot of people in our extended family who have that joke that was something that they said to a sibling. And it really bothers me. I'm like always trying to think of a nice, and it's people who are careful about the wordings that they use. It's people who are looking into it, like there are people in their extended family, all right, and they love my children and they would never want to say anything, but they don't think of it. It just like is a long running joke or whatever that they had. And so I'm always trying to figure out how to, like I'm trying to like figure out how to like speak up, because I'm not speaking up for myself. I'm speaking up for my kids who are old enough for that to be hurtful. And you hear it on television shows, and I mean you kind of hear like just little parts of it, and I don't like it at all. So
it's tough. It's tough to know what to say. And obviously these people, a stranger, you could obviously just give them an earful. But it usually tends to be like that. Someone's extended family, someone that's going to be around a lot. And sometimes it could be thinking of the right way to say it and then saying it to them later. Even if you only see them like, we just passed Thanksgiving, so we'll say Thanksgiving. You see them only on Thanksgiving. Next year, Thanksgiving, pull them to the side and say, hey, last Thanksgiving, you said such and such, and my kids are getting older. And I just ask you to not say that in front of them. This is a message that we are trying very hard to squash. And that's fine if that happened to you in your past, if you guys had that running joke. I just ask you to not repeat it or say it in front of my children. Something like that. But it's like it's interesting in this world because you see movies, all these different things where it's like people have the perfect comeback right in the moment. I am not good at that unless I practiced my whole life. We had the discussion around the like lucky thing, it's like my whole life. But if I don't have as much practice with it, sometimes I think of the perfect thing to say the next day, the next week. And what I'm learning is there's still time. Life's not done. Just because that moment was done, life's not done. And in fact, that was on a thing I was speaking on for the National Adoption Awareness Month. That was one of the pieces too, because we were like, adoptive parents were asking for advice, how do we handle this situation? How do we handle this situation? And then I just spoke up and said, don't be afraid to mess it up. You're going to mess it up. You're going to think of something better 2 hours after that conversation with your kid. Go ahead and pull them aside then and say, you know what? Now that I think about it, I should have said it like this. It's okay. And kids, it's okay.
About anything too.
About anything. And I think now it's like this, like when I think about it, it's like, that's the same for adults. And they will not remember. Well, I don't even remember saying that last year. Well, I know you did, because it literally has sat with me for a whole year. And here I am. It's another Thanksgiving. Can we have
I think too, if you wait, you can be less emotional and maybe like more careful, and they might receive it a little better too.
And I'm just going to put this out there for adoptive parents, especially if you have a transracial adoption situation, because these family occasions are probably very nerve-wracking, that someone could say something that could be very offensive to your child, and it's okay. It's okay if you blow up on them. It's okay if you don't have the best first reaction, and if you are emotional. It's our job to protect our children.
Yeah.
And you can have a calm down with that person later. Hey, what you said was really triggering. That's why I was, so emotional, or that's why we left and didn't even have Thanksgiving, or Easter, or whatever it is. And I think it's like all of it's okay if you're protecting your child, if you've got the right, if you have the right feelings behind it, right? And that you still care for that individual, but you do not care for and do not accept the words that are being said. So but it's what, as adoptive parents, we actually are always thinking about. Okay, how bad is it? How bad is it? How important is this person? Okay, here's my reaction, versus other things. So it's just trying to ride that balance, and we're all doing it every day.
For sure.
So
yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, so think about it, you guys. Write in the comments if there's anything else you would like for us to discuss around this topic. There's a whole bunch of strange things or questions that we all get on a regular basis that we'd love to chat about. So send us your comments. We'll have a part 2, part 3, whatever. All right.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us. Bye, you guys.
Bye.